Well, thank you very much for the introduction. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon. Before I start talking about the CIOA project, let me mention two things. First of all, I appreciate Jim Myers noting a project that Jim and I are working on with Aaron Silva, looking at the ability to select, in my case, carrots across organic and conventional environments to see the performance with the breeding actually done on those two separate environments. Another important point I want to note is that earlier today someone mentioned it's the year of the pulses, but perhaps even more important, at least to me, is also been designated the year of carrots by those gurus that designate years for certain crops. Also the year of begonias, but to me the fact that this is the year of the carrots is important, and so, all right, thank you. All right, great. Thank you very much. Maybe I better quit at that point. No, let me talk about the CIOA project. This is the Carrot Improvement for Organic Agriculture. It's a project that includes a fairly large number of collaborators. I'll talk about what everybody's doing and where they're from as we go along, and not go into a lot of details, so hopefully keep in a fairly reasonable time period here. So why are we working on looking at genetic improvement of carrots? First of all, it's one of those crops that is fairly widely grown in the organic industry. At least 14% of the U.S. carrot crop is grown on organic production systems, and that number seems to be growing. In fact, the big growers are looking for new varieties to expand their organic production in addition to the small-scale CSA level farmers. So carrot production on organic systems is a going operation, and there's an interest in improved carrots for that production. From the grower's standpoint, the development of novel colors are beyond orange, and you'll see some of the colors here to the right in the form of sticks, but also you'll see some later on. So some more diversity as a marketing tool for more consumption of carrots ultimately. Also in organic systems, obviously disease and pest resistance is very important, and so we're looking at variation in nematode and leaf blight diseases in this project. Finally, from the grower standpoint, weed competitiveness is important for carrots because it's a slow crop to germinate, to establish a stand, and to compete with weeds. And so we're looking at early vigor and canopy size. For the consumer, that variation in color is very important, and that's a sort of a carryover from what the growers are interested in. The growers, not surprisingly, are interested in what consumers are interested in. Culinary quality is very important for carrots. People have criticisms about carrot quality today. It used to be worse, I can tell you that from tasting old varieties, but it could be better. So we're looking at improving sweetness, reducing harshness or turpentine flavor you get in fresh carrots with a succulent carrot flavor, and we're also taking track of nutritional quality. In this project, we really have the division of data development and labor in two camps. One is the information for growers and consumers, so they have some database on the standard varieties of carrots that are out there today. They can go to our website and see how they perform. And we also have some related research activities associated with the project. So first of all, talking about the information we're developing for growers, we have field trials in 4 U.S. locations with corn. Boy, that was a miss. Sorry to say that. With carrots grown on conventional and organic plots. Each of these roughly 36 varieties are grown, have been grown on organic and conventional plots for 4 years. We're looking at root yield, we're looking at appearance, flavor, nutritional value, carotenoids, anthocyanins, and to some extent nitrates. We're evaluating disease resistance, root knot nematode resistance. Laura Hoagland's looking at soil quality and growth, and we're also looking at top size as it relates to the weed competition. So again, the idea to develop information for growers that they can go to this database to make selections or at least have some idea how a carrot they maybe haven't grown before might perform. The individuals that are coordinating those 4 location trials are Joe Nunez in California growing a winter carrot crop, Laura Hoagland at Purdue growing a summer crop in Indiana, Tim Waters growing a summer crop in Washington, and Aaron Silva growing a summer crop in Wisconsin. And again, these are paired trials with conventional organic comparisons for all of the entries in the trial, 36 entries, half of them roughly named cultivars, and the other half breeding stocks that can come from my program that have some interesting, we think are interesting characteristics for growers. I'm not going to go through the list in any great detail at all, but just to point out, if this works this way, that we have some of the major varieties based on surveys that the Organic Seed Alliance had generated, including the major varieties grown by organic growers in the U.S. as part of these 4 location trials. And just to show you some pictures of carrots, some of the standard varieties grown by growers include Red Core Chantenay, Bolero, and Western Red, some of the more Chantenay and Nance types. Some long imperator types, their baby carrots are developed by a lot of the big growers, so you see some long baby sugar snacks in Sun 255. Brasilia is not a variety grown widely, but it's one that's of some interest. Some unusual colors have a red, the color doesn't show up particularly good in this picture, but it's a lycopene red carrot on the left, it's a yellow lutein carrot in the middle, and an orange typical alpha beta carotene carrot on the right on this slide. Some experimental potential OPs from my breeding program. We also have some variation in the purple colors with the carrot on the left, an entry that's really a very good performer, and we're looking at releasing as an OP. That's dark orange with a purple exterior. We have a solid purple in the mix and a yellow with a purple exterior carrot. So this is a subset of the carrots that we're growing just to show you some of the variation, to demonstrate that, yes, we're looking at that variation in novel colors and shapes for growers and consumers. And we've noticed that this wide variation that you see amongst the cultivars holds up across the field locations. It's generally very consistent across locations. There's relatively little production by system by variety variation, meaning that the performance of a variety on any one of these 4 locations, on conventional versus organic in any paired plots are relatively similar. There certainly are differences, but no huge differences to point out for organic versus convention on any conventional growing conditions in any given location. And for that matter, from location to location, the relative performance is relatively stable, even looking at a winter crop in California compared to a summer crop in the northern locations. We have similar, relatively consistent observations for flavor and carotene content, which reflects nutritional value, meaning that there's relative stability. When you look at carrots grown in conventional in one location, it's fairly predictive how they're going to perform on organic or conventional in other locations. But there's wide variation among the cultivars, and you saw some of it. And there's also wide variation in cultivar stability, meaning the repeatability of performance in one location or the other. Some of the carrots are relatively low yielders, some are relatively high, and some of the low yielders are consistently low, some of the high yielders are consistently high, some of them jump around for yield. Same thing for flavor and for top size, and that stability is an important factor for a grower. If we are putting up information for growers, we'd like to have them have information that reflects a stable productive expectation. And we are finding in relatively consistent performance across locations. So this is a brief summary of the information that we're generating and have at our website. I'll have at the end of the talk that's there for growers. In addition, we're pursuing some research activities on 4 particular topics of the 8 that I had mentioned earlier that I have listed here. So looking, first of all, at evaluation of foliar diseases, Lindsey du Toit has been evaluating foliar diseases throughout the trial, and I should mention we're entering the 5th year of the project right now, and she's been evaluating leaf diseases from the multiple locations, not surprisingly finding alternaria, but also Cercospora, Xanthomonas, powdery mildew. And a grad student working in my lab has done an extensive evaluation of alternaria leaf blight resistance in the USDA plant introduction collection to see if we can identify some new sources of resistance. In addition to leaf diseases, we are looking extensively at nematode resistance. There is wide variation for nematode resistance. The picture in your upper left is the open pollinated cultivar Brasilia. You don't need to be a nematologist to identify the resistant plants in that mix. That's just a grow out of the OP. You can see some heavy nematode damage to the plants on the right, and we have some excellent resistance showing up. And some of these, the colors don't show up very well, but there's some purple carrot from Syria called Hams, a purple from China called Pingding, and then a European orange, Scarlet's Fancy's favorite, that comes from some heritage varieties out of primarily England, as well as derivatives from this Brazilian open pollinated population. And I should say there are 5 inbreds that have been developed during the course of the CIOA project that have been released as sources of very good nematode resistance, primarily for the nematodes in the warmer climates, Moedogyne incognita and javanica. This is some work done collaboratively on this project with Phil Roberts, and it's important because the major carrot production area in the U.S. is California in terms of total tonnage of carrots, and 80% of California is pretty well infested with these root knot nematodes. And Phil has been working with me in identifying resistance in these materials, and Josh Parsons is a grad student that worked on this project and has identified QTL for nematode resistance, which were incorporated as part of the marker resistance selection in the breeding program. Another individual looking at some specific research aspects of the project is Lori Hoagland at Purdue, who's looking at variation in not only the soil quality across locations, including organic matter, as well as the microbiome, the bacterial, fungal, and archaeal community composition in these different growing locations, see if they might relate to some of the growth. And she has a grad student who's looking at variation in these microbes as part of her PhD project. The last variable that we're looking at as a trait in the project is top size. This is my winter nursery in California. We'll be harvesting in a couple weeks. And you see a lot of variation in top size. That's not disease pressure. That's just natural variation in carrot top size. And that shows up in hybrids and in open pollinated carrots. And the idea behind this part of the project is to see if we can capture some of that genetic variation as a means to help suppress weed as a weed competitiveness, because carrots tend to be very slow establishers in the field, and we're looking at this. And in fact, Jed Cahoon at University of Wisconsin has looked at weed pressure with the different top sizes, and Sarah Turner is a grad student looking at this variation from a genetic standpoint. Finally, pointing out that the Organic Seed Alliance, Michaela Colley and Laurie McKenzie, are heavily involved in this project in their outreach and education of farmers as we're moving along in the project, and coordinating on-farm trialing for the project and field days as well, and fostering grower chef collaborations in this project. We're looking at rejuvenating this project, renewing it this upcoming year. New sources of nematode resistance have been released, looking at additional colors, looking at microbiome as it relates to carrot performance, mycorrhizae and endophytes, increasing some of the seeds that we've already developed from selections and getting some more, and releasing some germplasm. And we would be interested in any ideas you have on things that you think we should be improving from a genetic standpoint in breeding carrots for organic agriculture. So I surpassed my time, and I thank you.